This video is brought to you by John Robson Guitar Tuition. If you enjoy the content, please consider supporting the channel by enrolling on a course, purchasing some guitar lessons or a t-shirt, or you can join my Patreon. Now, on with the show. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, and especially at the moment, I do hope you're well. So you've seen the title of the video. You probably, if you were at the live stream on Friday, heard me talking about it. Basically, what we're on about today is Eric Clapton. Is he any good or not? The reason I thought I'd do this video is because every time I do a video about Eric, about his playing or his music or whatever, there's always a strong contingent of people in the comments section who just say, I don't get it. He's overrated. I just don't see what all the fuss is about. And okay, I'm generalising here with this next statement, but basically what I find is when I have a conversation with somebody who has that point of view, it's usually because they know the big hits, or some of the big hits, you know, the kind of Wonderful Tonight and, you know, Behind the Mask and, you know, all of those kind of Holy Mother, all of that sort of 80s pop output and, you know, maybe his 70s output that was, by his own admission, not his best work. So what I thought I'd do today is have the trial of Eric Clapton. The case for the prosecution, he is overrated, and the case for the defence, he isn't. So what I'm going to do now is hand it over to Brian May's fat and ugly cousin to do the case for the prosecution. Here he is.
The case for the prosecution.
Eric Patrick Clapton. It has been said by many people, usually actually in the comments section of any video that I make about Eric Clapton, it has been said by many people that you are a massively overrated guitarist, a pentatonic chancer who had a couple of decent tunes in the late 60s or early 70s, and you have spent decades basking in the glow of the idea that you are the guitarist that other guitarists look up to. I put it to you, sir, that you are not. The evidence that I shall present begins with your very own words. In a recent interview with the publication Uncut, you claimed to be the master of the cliché, and what better way to introduce the turgid, dirgy, syrupy power ballad that is lacking in any form of power, called Wonderful Tonight. Check out any of your best of compilations. That song will always be included, as will Let It Grow, and the comments that I would make about that I have already made about Wonderful Tonight. Then we move on to Knocking on Heaven's Door, a cover version which isn't as good as the original, or any of the other cover versions of that song. I Shot the Sheriff, a cover version which isn't as good as the original, or Cocaine, a cover version which isn't as good as the original, or After Midnight, a cover version which isn't as good as the original. None of the riffs, licks or solos from any of these or other tracks that you've offered up as the best of your work frankly rise above the level of merely competent. Albums like August, Behind the Sun, Slow Hand and 461 Ocean Boulevard. Where are the spine-tingling guitar solos? Where are the licks that every guitar player wishes they could play but can't? Where are the moments where we go, I've never heard anyone do that with a guitar before? Walk into any provincial pub after the lockdown that offers live music and you will see people whose day jobs are carpet fitters, van drivers and plumbers who play with more energy, verve, passion and technique than you display on any of your best of compilation albums. I now hand the floor to the counsel for the defence.
The case for the defence.
Has he gone? Right, shall we talk some sense now then? First of all, you don't judge any album-orientated artist on the basis of best-of compilations, well-known songs and big radio hits. Commercial success does not equate to musical or artistic worth. If that were the case, You know, the bloke who invented the pot noodle would have more Michelin stars than Gordon Ramsay. You've basically got to ignore the stuff that pleases your granny or the teeny boppers or some clueless radio show host and listen to what the fans actually talk about. So let's do that. Now, let's talk about the Beano album. What you had, you know, the album he did with John Mayall's Blues Breakers. What you had there was a 19 or possibly 20-year-old Eric Clapton playing with absolute authority and maturity beyond his years. If you want spine tingling, check out Steppin' Out or Hideaway from that Blues Breakers album, and then just put that into the context of the music of the day. You know, okay, so fair enough, we had Jeff Beck with Over, Under, Sideways, Down in the Yardbirds, and yeah, you had Paperback Writer by the Beatles, but the other stuff that was kind of in the hit parade at the time, we're looking at, well, let's have a look. Ken Dodd, Cilla Black, Jim Reeves, and Herman's Hermits. Okay, yeah, so it was into that context that the world first heard a Gibson Les Paul singing and sustaining through a cranked-up Marshall, courtesy of Eric. And to answer a point from previously, we'd never heard anybody do that on a guitar before. And okay, so he's made a career out of, you know, the same old pentatonic licks that we all know and love. But where did we learn those scales from? Well, it was either from Eric or from players who'd learned them from Eric. And it's not always about playing the clever scale or the fastest, flashiest lick. It's about finding the perfect note for the instant and playing it with absolute authority and sincerity. And if you want to hear this being done, just listen to the Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs album, where you've got tracks like Have You Ever Loved a Woman, Key to the Highway, and of course the title track. Again, you want spine tingling? There you go. Now, I'm the first person to admit that there are fallow patches in his career where he's been on autopilot, largely and quite often due to either booze or other substances, but there have been occasional flashes of brilliance. I mean, yeah, okay, the album 461 Ocean Boulevard, for example, contains very little in the way of long, flashy guitar solos, but he'd already done that in his Cream period. What you get on that album, first of all, I mean, any album that contains a track like Motherless Children can't be all bad. It's absolutely infectious, toe-tapping, tight, funky slide playing. Absolutely brilliant. I defy you to listen to that and not start kind of nodding your head or tapping your foot. Brilliant stuff. Then in the 80s, which admittedly wasn't his best decade, we still got a few real gems cropping up there. His whole collaboration with Roger Waters on the Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking album. That Carl Perkins TV special I bang on about all the time. If you still haven't seen it, check it out. And even a bit of a dull album like Behind the Sun, which, you know, frankly sounds a bit like, you know, wine bar background music. That still throws up the occasional gem, like Forever Man, and brilliant riff on that song, and a classic, fiery but simple Clapton solo that just suits the song perfectly, and that's all any guitar player can ever hope or aspire to do. And the thing is, any artists with a career as long as Eric will have experienced peaks and troughs, and I just think it's a bit ironic that his best known and perhaps more commercial stuff that gets radio airplay are from his, you know, songs from his least inspired periods, but his best works are absolute gems. And yes, maybe you do have to wade through some dross, but it's worth it. Okay, take a listen to Layla, Key to the Highway, Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking, Motherless Children, Have You Ever Loved a Woman, Stepping Out. All of you love loads of tracks that are really well worth checking out. And if you can listen to all of those and still not get it, then I guess you never will. And that concludes the case for the defence, my lord.
And to sum things up,
so there you have it, folks, both sides of the argument. Now, this is just a bit of fun. Please don't take it too personal if you are strongly on one side or the other of the argument. I am strongly on one side of the argument, and I would say that, yes, he has had fallow patches throughout his career. He has had periods when his output has been mediocre at best. But when you hear the good stuff, when you hear him when he's on form, when he is, you know, kind of, when he's got a good wind behind him, there are few guitarists in the world who can touch him for just sheer emotional content and for expressive content and just for the electrifying vibe that he puts into every note. He's the kind of player where you take a lucky dip, really. If you just take a random selection of his career, of his output, then chances are you're gonna hear a lot of, stuff that's not really that good. I'll be the first person to admit. But what I would say is that when you hear the good stuff, it far more than makes up for the mediocre filler material that has been, large parts of his output. So that's me. Okay, I'm a Clapton fan, but I'm not blind to his faults, and I just think that the good stuff kind of justifies the praise that he gets from people like me who say that, he is a great player. So there you folks, that's it for today. Hope you've enjoyed the video, found it reasonably entertaining, and if you have, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so, and why not give me a like while you're at it. And you know about the Fret Zealot discount code. There it is on screen again there. If you're thinking of getting a Fret Zealot tuition aid, then use that code, get a little bit of money knocked off, and I will leave it there for today. Thanks for watching folks, thanks for your time, stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.